Hello, YouTube. This is going to be my impeachment inquiry summary. First and foremost, let's get to the sponsor of this video. It's just sponsored by my mom. She tells me how handsome and capable I am while she's laying out my clothes for me in the morning. So thanks, Mom. Today I'm going to be going to do my best to explain the impeachment inquiry and the investigation into Hunter Biden's taxes. As you can tell, I'm not amazing at reading a script. I'm going to talk to basically about both sides' narratives, as well as we're going to talk about the 4 expert witnesses that showed up to testify, 3 being from the Republican side, 1 being from the Democrat side. I will also be including important context, citations, and such. I want to make this video accessible to people that don't follow this on the day-to-day, and if you do follow this a bit, I want you to be able to fill in the gaps in the timeline and get your stories as straight and factual as possible. So what we see here today is a Republican-led hearing, meaning that they are prosecutors in this case, and the Democrats are the minority party, so they're kind of playing the role of the defense. And since a lot of these people are lawyers, we're going to see a lot of little courtroom tactics. I watched a lot of legal trials, but I am not a lawyer. I can kind of recognize the tactics, so I'll point them out to the best of my ability. But that all being said, this isn't legal analysis. I will admit, watching this for the first time, some of the tactics that I saw that the Democrats use on defense left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. They're attacking the witnesses, they're obfuscating, they're changing the subject, they're this, that, and the other thing. They're never addressing the facts in a lot of circumstances, and I didn't like it. But on my second viewing of this, when emotion wasn't involved, it was purely analytical, I really got to see kind of what they were doing with these tactics, why they were doing them, and I didn't hate it as much. I respected it a little bit more. So my script was about 40 pages when I got this done, and I edited it down to 26, and I figured I'm going to do a 3-part series here. 1, because nobody wants to sit through a 3.5 hour long video, and 2, because it was kind of daunting recording a giant video this big. I don't use a lot of editing, so every mistake is left in there, and this is my 3rd attempt, so it's because I made other mistakes already. Yeah, so I've watched this hearing twice. It's about 7 hours long, roughly. I've watched the IRS whistleblower hearing twice. I've watched the read the Devin Archer testimony. I watched the Garland hearing. I read a ton of news articles on this, and a lot of them are going to be cited here, some of the better ones. Mostly from the Republican side, because they're making a lot of claims, factual claims. So I want to be able to back those factual claims up. Democrats don't really talk about the facts that much, so they won't need much citation. If you like these deep dives, give me a subscription, but don't do it on a pity. I want people that are actually interested in the content I'm making and these deep dives, that like a chill, kind of fair-minded person going over this as fair-minded as possible. Come in and do it with an open mind. If you're partisan, you're not really going to like me that much on either side. Maybe in this circumstance, Republicans will like me a little bit more, but I guarantee when I go through the Trump impeachment from 2018, which I eventually will, Republicans will like me less. So yeah, let's go from there. Also, yeah, the whistleblower hearing. This is not required viewing. I'm going to cover pretty much everything that's in the whistleblower hearing. That's also in this. I'm going to recap it all for you. If you want to see a more in-depth 2-hour thing where these whistleblowers talk about all the things that they saw as red flags within the DOJ and the IRS, you can go watch that. It's pretty damn good. There's a couple of people that did a good job in it that kind of carries over here. Young people, hopefuls to do a better job when they get a little bit older, maybe get a higher ranking seat. Be my guest if you want to watch it. Again, not required viewing though. So the majority, there's 3 hearings we're going to talk about. The majority here, we're going to hit a few more. We're going to hit Schwerin, we're going to hit Bobulinski, but I'm not going to talk about them that much to even worry about referencing them. The IRS whistleblower hearing, the Devin Archer testimony behind closed doors, and Hunter Biden, who's Hunter Biden's friend and business partner. And we're going to talk about the impeachment inquiry, which is happening today. 3 hearings we're going to kind of cover in this video. Really, we're going to hit 6 or 7, but so few it's not worth saying we're covering it here. If you, yeah. So the reason I'm not going to cover Garland in specific, this guy right here. Jim Jordan is the one that called the hearing, and it was a different committee, if I'm not mistaken. And Jim Jordan's not a great politician. Like, he does an all right job here. I'm not going to say he's bad, but he's just not a great politician. The Garland hearing was a giant 6-hour waste of time that made Garland come out looking better than anybody. The only one minor factoid we got out of it, I'm going to talk about here. And I still think it's a bad point. The whole thing was a fucking waste of time. Jim Jordan sucks. I hate him. So, as for the Devin Archer closed door hearing, all we got is a transcript, so I'm going to cite it as necessary. I didn't actually cover it because I'm bad at reading scripts. Imagine me reading a fucking testimony for 4 hours. Like, I can't do it. That hearing is also going to get brought up several times in sleazy ways. So, you're going to see a few politicians when they're making a parliamentary inquiry or about point of order to enter something into the record. Instead of just saying what it is, they're going to start trying to read from this transcript to rebut arguments that other people had just made in their allotted 5 minutes. And it's like these people spent their 5 minutes doing whatever the fuck they wanted and not making this argument, and now it's not their turn anymore, and they're trying to add in extra time to make more arguments. It comes off as sleazy. I don't like it. Republicans do something similar, and I'm going to call that out as sleazy as well, but it's like 8 times the Democrats do it in this hearing. It's only like twice the Republicans do. So it's pretty shitty, and yeah, I'll show you. But yeah, both sides are going to be cherry picking this Devin Archer testimony a bit to kind of push their narrative. So if you want to read it, if there's a demand, I'll go into it. But I'll just read it myself and give you some quick summaries. I can make a 30-minute video out of it. There's another big, juicy dump of information, and that was Hunter Biden's laptop that he left at a computer shop and his iCloud leak from his iPhone. We got a lot of documents, we got a lot of texts, we got a lot of WhatsApp messages, we got all kinds of shit out of that. That really is the core of this investigation. I don't think if they had those 2 leaks from Hunter Biden's ineptitude, that they would have anything here to go off of. They'd have a lot of speculation. We'd still be able to see the bank records and the money going into the Biden's accounts and whatnot, but yeah, we wouldn't have, it's really the heart of it. So I want to lay down a little more context to anyone watching this video, potentially not on the release date. Like if you watch it within the first 2 weeks, you'll know about these things, but these are going to all get memory hold. No one's going to remember we had an impending government shutdown 2 days after this hearing was held. That didn't happen because it didn't happen. So everyone's going to forget it even came up for discussion. Speaker at the time, Kevin McCarthy, who passed a 47-day resolution to push it off, a continuing resolution. So there was no shutdown. So all the fear-mongering you see about shutdown in this hearing might be relevant in the hearing itself, but like 2 days later, it no longer was. Same, you're going to hear attacks against Speaker McCarthy, but turns out Speaker McCarthy got ousted from office within a week of this hearing because he passed that continuing resolution. I think 4 members of his own side voted with 100% of Democrats to remove him from the Speaker of the House, and the House has been thrown into chaos since. So it is what it is. But again, like, you're going to hear attacks on McCarthy, they're just going to fall flat. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind that this was prior to any of that, and that's kind of why there were good points at the time, even though they fall flat today. Yeah, because otherwise the Democrats did a really bad job. So we're back here at the House Oversight Committee, and we have a guest from the House Ways and Means Committee as well we're going to get into. Again, I'm going to skip most parliamentary inquiries and motions on the floor, unless they're out of the ordinary, grandstanding, partisan attacks, things that are off subject are going to get skipped as well. Now, the Democrats are forming narratives to avert the subject, and that's not what I'm going to consider off subject. If they're actually pushing a narrative to say this is actually more important, and the Republicans are ignoring it for this impeachment, I consider that a narrative, and I'm going to include those in my summary. So we're going to also have 4 expert witnesses. We're only going to talk about the impeachment inquiry and the potential impeachment that could come if a lot of these speculations turn into facts. So they're going to be asking these expert witnesses how they should proceed moving down, the Republicans anyways, how they should proceed moving down the road and blah, blah, blah. We're going to have 2 legal experts that are also professors, and we're going to have 2 legal experts that are going to be witnesses in investigation and tactics. Expert witnesses in terms of prosecutorial experience. Comer is going to be up first, this gentleman here. He looks a little smug, kind of looks like a Muppet. But he's pretty damn good at his job, I gotta say that. Like, with Mitch McConnell having his illness and potentially leaving the Senate soon, I didn't see any leadership in the Republicans that I was like impressed with their ability until I saw this guy. He's doing a great job with the drip, drip, drip of this investigation, keeping it in the public eye, keeping it, even though the press isn't covering it. He's doing good. Comer's doing you might not like him, you might not agree with his politics, but just playing the political dance game, he's doing a fantastic job. So Comer opens up speaking about how we have a bunch of new evidence since the IRS whistleblower hearings. He talks about Joe Biden now being exposed as a liar, a lot of his statements and past knowledge and involvement in Hunter Biden's family business deals and blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden actually knew about it. He said he didn't know anything about it. And then his story kept changing as new details came out. So he also talks about the payments for Hunter Biden going to Joe Biden's home. He had two wires, one for $250,000, one for $10,000 that both were going to Hunter Biden, but the address posted on the wire was Joe Biden's home address, and they were both later classified as loans, but we'll get into why that's shady. Also, we're going to talk about he talks about the 20 or so shell companies. Now, I'm not citing any of this right now because this is up to the Republicans to prove, not me. I'm going to cite my tangents, and that's it. When they say something, I'm going to make them have the onus to prove it. And if they make a claim that they don't prove, I'm going to say that they didn't prove that. Now, the shell companies comes from the whistleblower hearing a bit. So, but I'm pretty sure they're going to go into that in this hearing as well, so I won't have to break it down for you. Oops, sorry, I almost did a mute there. So let's break down his narratives a bit, what he kind of actually said underneath, because he's really said a lot of vague statements. So we know Hunter did wrong. We know that Hunter was at least giving the illusion of selling access to 7, 8, they say up to 23 different countries. They only talk about 7 in this hearing, I think. We know that he was doing that. We know he was selling influence. That can be proven. We have emails, we have phone calls, we have texts, we have all sorts of proof that he was there. We know that. We just don't know if Joe Biden was involved in it. So right now it looks like the illusion of access, where when Joe Biden called it over 20 business meetings and met with like, I think 8 different business partners, several in private, of Hunter Biden, it was all just to talk about the weather and friendly conversation. They never talked business. So we don't have any proof of otherwise. But that's really up to you to judge. But that's what the Republicans are going to be proving here, is that they do have some proof. They also are going to try to be proving another line of, I guess, legal logic here. You don't need Joe Biden actually accepting any money directly to be accused of bribery. We're going to talk about that here. Legal experts are going to go into that a bit. You don't need, like, the bribery could go to his family members. It could all go to Hunter Biden, and you could still implicate and charge Joe Biden with the crime of bribery, even though he personally didn't receive $1. They're going to get into that, and they're really going to dive hard at that point, and I think it's a really solid one. So they just have to prove that Joe Biden now was influenced by the money in some way, shape, or form. So they're still lacking on that concrete evidence. But we have lies, shady tactics, cover-up, and even inside the government we have stonewalling. So he's basically saying there's enough smoke, it's time to go look for a fire, and it's a pretty compelling narrative with the facts that they're going to lay out here. But I'll really ultimately let you be the judge. These are just these breakdowns and tangents are in my opinion, and I'm trying to tell you that right up front so you don't think I'm weaving it into the facts part. If you really just want the facts, go watch the fucking hearing yourself, you bitch. So Mr. Smith is up next, and he is the guest speaker from the House Ways and Means Committee, and he has a very blue suit. It stands out quite a bit there, quite the statement. He talks about the findings from his own committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, and provides evidence linking the family to the money. So we have a damning quote by Hunter Biden that's keys to my family's only assets, is how he refers to selling access to Joe Biden to rich people in China, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Serbia, all different countries, Romania. He speaks about meetings between Hunter Biden's business partners in Ukraine and Joe Biden, and then Joe Biden turning around and taking actions that benefit those two Ukrainian businessmen. So I'm going to kind of go on a tangent here again. Sorry to keep cutting these people off here to explain things, but they're not really going to dive into. People in this hearing are going to accept that you already know what I'm about to tell you, which is why I want to tell it to you. So There was a December 4th meeting at the Four Seasons Hotel in Dubai I want to talk about right now between Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, the CFO of Burisma, Pozharski, and the owner of Burisma, Zlochevsky. I also want to talk about a bunch of emails we have between Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, and Pozharski, who again is the CFO of Burisma. I want to talk about a little bit that these all came off the Hunter Biden laptop. Again, we wouldn't have a case if we didn't have these. One set of emails was between the CFO, Pozharski, and Hunter Biden, where the CFO is demanding that all the charges that are being looked into by the Ukrainian prosecutor into Zlochevsky be dropped, and he wants Hunter Biden's help doing that. He's paying Hunter Biden money specifically to get these charges taken off of his boss. Now, as I pulled up, these charges were indeed dropped. Or as I pull this up, these charges were indeed dropped. And we also have emails showing Blue Star and Hunter congratulating each other, patting each other on the back that they pull up in the hearing. I will try to get those for you. I don't have the citation for that because that's something I have to prove. Something they have to prove because they allege it. But I'm going to zoom in on this email here, and that'll allow you to pause the video if you want to read it. But the 2 points I'm going to point you to are: he wants U.S. politicians, publicly and privately, to express their positive opinion of Poroshenko, right? No, Zlochevsky and Burisma. There's a lot of complicated Ukrainian names we're going to go over. I'm going to butcher a lot of them, and I'm going to maybe mix a couple up. I don't speak Ukrainian. I don't know any Ukrainians, man. This shit's hard. So this is where he's asking for people to lobby on behalf of Burisma, and the ultimate purpose is to close down any cases, pursuits against him in Ukraine, against Zlochevsky in Ukraine. This is the email from the CFO of Burisma to Devin Archer, Hunter Biden, and Eric Schwerin. It's right there, you know? Like, that's a big fucking email. That's damning as hell. Next, there were emails where... Actually, you know what, he even says it in here, so I don't need to pull the second citation up. But there's also emails where Hunter... so where Hunter said... where Hunter was asked if he wants to... if he would have people lobby on behalf of Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. So he's asking for political favors. And the third set of emails we're going to have between them that's worth highlighting, here for you, is that Hunter Biden introduced this man. Now, again, the CFO was paying Hunter Biden to get the charges dropped against his boss. And Hunter Biden introduced this man to his father right before he started doing that. So Hunter got Pozharski a private dinner date with his dad. And then a few weeks later, that man started paying Hunter Biden to drop these charges on his boss. And they were dropped within a year, and we have emails of Hunter Biden bragging about it. And why were they dropped? Because Joe Biden demanded that the prosecutor charging them be fired. A new prosecutor came in, Hunter Biden asked for them to be dropped, and they were. So maybe that second guy was dirty, maybe he felt coerced. I don't know, but that's what they're alleging here. And the evidence kind of shows it. So Zlochevsky was hiding away in Dubai. Zlochevsky, again, the head of Burisma, the owner, was hiding in Dubai, and that was due to the fact that Shokin was directly investigating him for corruption, freezing his assets, seizing his property. He was going after him for legal purposes, all sorts of stuff. Didn't have them all written down here. So the reason why the specific meeting took place in Dubai, essentially, was that. So Zlochevsky and the CFO, whose name is hard to say, called Hunter and Archer and asked them to come to the Four Seasons for a meeting. When they arrived, Hunter was asked, out of the presence of Devin Archer, he was asked to call his dad, which Hunter Biden did, and said something along the lines of, we got to help these guys out, as Hunter recapped to Devin Archer later. I guess Devin Archer wasn't privy to the conversation. 3 days later, Joe Biden was on a plane to Ukraine. 1 day after that, so 4 days after this meeting in Dubai, he was demanding that Shokin be fired to Poroshenko, who is the president of Ukraine at the time. So again, a lot of Ukrainian names. I'll try to slow down my New York speed talking a little bit for you. Tolchevsky being investigated, hiding in Dubai. His assets are frozen, his property seized, and legal action is being taken against him. Hiding in Dubai. Tells his employee, the CFO of Burisma, give this person money to get the charges dropped. Has a meeting with the person they're giving money to, says, call your dad, we need help. Dad gets called, answers the phone, says, Dad, we need to help these guys out. 4 days later, Dad flies to Ukraine, demands the guy be fired. Okay, so maybe, Joe Biden alleges that Shokin was corrupt. Maybe there's something to that. That's what Joe Biden alleges why he demanded he be fired. Not to help his son, because he was corrupt, and that's why he withheld the $1 billion loan guarantee. So, let's get into that. Let's jump into that with my next citation here. Was Joe Biden right? Was he corrupt? Or is this a recorded audio call between Poroshenko, the ex-president, and Joe Biden, the VP at the time, where Poroshenko says, since he says in this directly, you can go to the citation here and listen to it. We fired Shokin because you demanded it. We didn't have any proof of him doing anything wrong, and we had no investigations for corruption opened against him. Let me see if they write it out here. I don't want to play any audio. I'll play my music. No. You can go listen to the audio yourself. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it doesn't say anything in there. But yeah, so Shokin wasn't fired until about 3.5 months after Biden requested it, and these phone calls took place kind of like around that timeline, like right after he fired him. There were other phone calls. I think there were 4 phone calls in total, and this was just a snippet of one of them. So 5 months prior to Biden demanding Shokin be fired, the Obama State Department issued a memo where they approved of Shokin in particular and his anti-corruption efforts. This is a summary article. It's a bit dated. They go over a lot of the things I go over here, but it's a bit dated. So this is Victoria Nuland. She worked for Obama at, I don't remember, the State Department, I think. I don't remember. But yeah, Secretary Kerry approved their anti-corruption efforts. We're impressed with you. Your ongoing efforts are great, blah, blah, blah. We're willing to work with you. That loan guarantee is coming. We have another email in, I want to say in October. I have a citation here for it, but it doesn't actually, I was looking through it in my last attempt to record this. It doesn't actually show the email, so I'm not going to pull it up. And then we have a third group of people here who were lobbying on behalf of Shokin and the anti-corruption efforts, and that was the EU. So the EU said that they were doing so good in their anti-corruption efforts that they were going to, such a noteworthy progress that they were going to include Ukraine in their travel program, where you do not need a visa to travel through the EU. They were going to pull Ukraine into that circle of nations that you didn't need a visa to travel to and from. That's how good that they were doing with their corruption, apparently. This was days after Biden called for the man to be fired. So, December 18th, so that was 10 days later. So you'd think, if everyone knew this guy was corrupt and they were calling for him to be fired, then they wouldn't say the exact opposite here, but whatever. So, sorry about that information dump there. We're gonna jump back to the impeachment inquiry. Back to Mr. Smith here. So Smith is speaking of Joe Biden hosting and speaking with Hunter, with people with Hunter is trying to gain access with. So he spoke to the CFO of Burisma, and Hunter gained access to him. He also spoke with other people that they're going to get into later in the hearing. This is, again, just a quick summary. Joe Biden was also using Air Force Two in order to transport Hunter Biden and his business partners to meetings, one of which was in Mexico that gets cited here, but I guess there were others as well. This access allowed Hunter to cash in with millions on foreign sources, China, Ukraine, Romania, Serbia, and more. And in one email, Hunter also bragged about a $10 million deal just for introductions to Joe Biden. Now keep that in mind, because that $10 million deal, we're going to see a lot of different sources that we have all talk about that $10 million deal in different ways, and they all really add up. So I'm not citing any of this because these are all Mr. Smith's words. This is an introduction. All these things here, when I'm recapping, is somewhere his burden to prove, not mine. So he talks about the DOJ stonewalling an investigation into Hunter Biden, and finishes up with Hunter has back taxes paid by a Democrat donor that he didn't know. So some guy just paid his back taxes because it was going to hurt Joe Biden's campaign, and that kind of made it at least eligible to be looked into as a campaign finance violation. But the DOJ also stonewalled that. So that's all for his testimony. What do we mean by when we talk about the DOJ stonewalled that? So there's two people in the DOJ. They're U.S. attorneys out of Delaware. We have Leslie Wolf, and she's the assistant attorney out of Delaware, U.S. attorney out of Delaware. She's going to be the one that's capable, or the culprit of most of these stonewalling. These are the allegations that were put down by the whistleblowers in the first hearing, mostly. So the proof there is their words, not anything written down on paper. So I'm going to just kind of point you to their words, I guess. If you want to watch my recap, I cover it all. So Leslie Wolf, during the investigation, she instructed investigators that they couldn't look into political figure one. So in emails, texts, phone calls, also every form of media you can think of, we have people talking about Joe Biden, we have people talking about JB, the big guy, Hunter's dad, Jim's brother. Any of these times, Leslie Wolf told investigators they were not allowed to ask the witnesses questions, and they were not allowed to follow these leads up at all. They could not look into anything involving Joe Biden or his three pseudonyms he was using for emails. So they were emails he was emailing with Hunter and Devin Archer about things about Ukraine, approving talking points for Ukraine and such. And he was using those fake emails to communicate with his son about talking points that they were going to use on TV and use against people investigating things about Ukraine. So we have emails of Hunter Biden's staff coordinating with, or Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's staff coordinating on different things as well, and Joe Biden was CC'd in those using these pseudonyms as well. So she wouldn't let investigators look into any of that. Wolf is also the person that tipped off the Joe Biden campaign about this investigation, what was going on during the investigation, and she was the reason that Hunter Biden was able to lawyer up and be ready for the interview that was coming his way. It was supposed to be a surprise. She also stopped them from raiding his home. She said it would be bad optics, and this is because Joe Biden was a declared candidate. Even though the election was so far out at the time, it was because he was a declared candidate at the time. She wouldn't allow any of this to happen. So also she was the first person to disagree with the charges in the chain of command. So first they had felony charges for 4 of the 5 years that they were looking into, 2014, 2017, 18, and 19. They have felony charges for those. 2015, they had misdemeanor charges. If you include the guns, I think they had 9 felonies, 4 misdemeanors, and that doesn't include the Mann Act or FARA violations that could potentially have come from these actions as well. So they had a lot of proof of these crimes that were all going to come to Hunter Biden. We have a lot of proof of wrongdoing for Hunter Biden. And she was the first person to disagree with it on the chain of command. It had to go from the IRS whistleblowers, the investigators, to the IRS prosecutors, where they had to sign off on it. Then it went up to the DOJ tax division, where we have a 99-page memo that's somewhat in dispute as to what it says, but the expert witnesses claim that it endorses the indictments as well. And then it moves up to Wolf and Weiss, and they're the first two, the actual prosecutors of the case are the first two to disagree with charging any of the felonies against Hunter Biden. And it turns out they only let 2 of the misdemeanors for taxes be charged, even though now he's charged with 2 felony gun counts. So when you hear about the DOJ, think of those 2. Oh, damn. Weiss and mostly Leslie Wolf. She's going to be the big name for most of the things that are going to be called DOJ stonewalling. And again, this is the allegations that they need to prove. I'm just kind of trying to help fill in context. Now for my least favorite person on the committee. Oh, look, it's Jim Jordan. So, Jim Jordan is a little bit of an emotional manlet, and I don't really like that about him. He throws tantrums and whatnot. But he actually does a decent job here and sometimes in hearings when he's not the leader of the hearing. He was actually kind of a good leader of the hearing. It just, the hearing was pointless for Garland. Anyways, he wants to dig into a few things here in his opening statements, and it's selling access. He wants to bring up the selling access, Hunter selling access in specific to Ukraine, and he wants to talk about the FD-1023. So the FD-1023 is from a confidential source that the FBI says they have high confidence in. This source told Zlochevsky, again, the head of Burisma, that Zlochevsky told him that he had to make direct payments to Hunter and Joe Biden that accumulated to $10 million together, split 5 and 5 between the two of them. And this FD-1023 in, I think, 2018 or 2019 was investigated by William Barr. I'm sorry, this is context. This part here about William Barr, Jordan didn't actually say this, I just want to fill you with context. The reason why this FD-1023 isn't taken as gospel is because William Barr did an investigation into it, found nothing of worth merit to investigate, and closed the investigation. So that's why you'll hear claims that it's conspiracy theory, that there's actually something here, because Barr already looked into it and at the time didn't have proof of anything. But we have a lot more proof since then. Basically, Hunter Biden's laptop had dropped since the investigation closed there and today. And again, Hunter Biden's laptop is where all the juicy deeds come from. So anytime you hear somebody saying that, like, it's all about Hunter Biden's dick, that's because they don't want to address all the really juicy things that came out of his laptop in terms of wrongdoing from the family. It's a way to muddy the waters. You'll see some bad faith rhetoricians and tacticians do it. And when somebody tells you that, either they're too lazy to look into it and they're giving you an excuse as to why they don't want to. It's not worth my time. It's just Hunter Biden's dick, or they're a partisan actor and should not be trusted. Either way, don't listen to that fucking person moving forward. That's an idiot. So, sorry, little tangent there. Jordan cites communication with Hunter Biden, Devin Hunter, and Burisma about how Hunter and Archer are happy with Blue Star Strategies' work thus far. Remember, it only took Blue Star, Hunter, and Archer less than a year to get those charges dropped against Zlochevsky once they got hired, and they said that they were happy with their work so far in removing the charges from Zlochevsky. So who are Blue Star Strategies, you might ask? They are a DNC Democrat lobbying firm that uses its connections to lobby the U.S. government on a political actor's behalf, whoever's giving them money. They are registered as foreign agents, unlike Joe Biden, or Hunter Biden and Devin Archer. So that's what they do. The company gives them money. They go back to the U.S. politicians and they say, hey, this company wants you to speak positively about them. That's perfectly fine. That's lobbying. Lobbying is perfectly fine, as long as you don't have an inside man in the government that specifically gives you a thumbs up on all the people that pay you a lot of money to lobby for them. Like, it has to be government actors that are doing this because they see it as the best policy, not because it gives a family member millions of dollars, essentially. So lobbying on its own, it's up for debate if you think that's corrupt. A lot of people do. Blue Star Strategies was bragging they won in one of their emails, and we're going to see that later. This is, again, the summary. We're not going to see a lot of citations here, just introductions. All that's going to be... God bless you, baby. All that's going to be in part 2. But yeah, they got everything dropped within a year. Mr. Jordan talks about how the prosecutor that was put in after Shokin dropped the charges into Burisma due to a letter from Hunter Biden. He also brings up that Hunter's plea deal and that the DOJ let some of the most important charges against him drop off. All the Ukraine stuff that took place in 2014, 2015, and that's what a lot of these emails that came out of Hunter Biden's laptop pertain to. So to let those two specifically drop off after the laptop was known in 2020, it's a big deal. Like, all those charges, like, you probably ones haven't yet. But yeah, it's a huge deal to let those fall off of Hunter, because if he would have been convicted of those, that would have been huge in terms of, like, because it's already proven, now we just got to pin it to Joe Biden. They also kind of have to prove it happened now. So, I'm going to have to explain Hunter's plea deal really quickly with you, just in case you haven't followed that. So, again, I think it was 9 felonies, 4 misdemeanor charges. He sat down with prosecutors Weiss and whatnot, and they talked it down to 2 misdemeanors. Now, I don't know the exact legal tricks that they were played here. I'm not a lawyer. I just know I heard a lawyer talk about it. Andy McCarthy from the National Review talked about this. Apparently, there's a specific clause that needs to be in one document that was in a different document, and the judge saw this as like a red flag, and it basically gave Hunter Biden blanket immunity to not be charged if there were any further investigations on anything pertaining to the 9 felonies and 4 misdemeanors, kind of giving him blanket immunity before the investigation was done. She said this was not correct or correct method and told him he got 30 days to come back. Well, that also sort of blew up in the press at the time. We found out that the DOJ had given blanket immunity to Hunter Biden, so when they hit the public scrutiny, the DOJ denied having to do that, but then Hunter's lawyers came out and said that's exactly what the DOJ said, and we wouldn't have agreed to anything else. So the whole deal blew up, and now Hunter Biden is charged with 2 felony gun charges, nothing for Texas, nothing for the Mann Act, as well as we're going to see with Marjorie Taylor memes when we get to her. That'll probably be video 3. This is pretty much all the important stuff for Jim Jordan, and let's move to the defense now, and we'll just take a look. Oh, cool. We're on time here. They're going to have this within an hour. So, the defense. Raskin is up first for the Democrats, and he was one of the best in the whistleblower hearing at making really good arguments in a very well-scripted way for the defense. So I want to stress this. By nature of these hearings, the GOP called it. So if the GOP doesn't come out looking better from these hearings, that means they're inept. And that's why I say Garland hearing was a waste of time, because Jim Jordan, the Republicans didn't come out looking better after that hearing, so he's inept, is basically my conclusion there. So by nature of these hearings, though, Republicans are going to come out looking better at the end of them because they have enough evidence to call these hearings. So Republicans or Democrats are going to be on the back foot. So remember that during Raskin's arguments, he's gonna attack the witnesses, and you don't have to be nasty when you attack the witnesses. He's gonna attack the other side's credibility. He's gonna try to poke holes in their argument. He might not address the facts directly, and these are common tactics you'll see from like defense attorneys and whatnot. If you're coming to hear good counterpoints for all these points the GOP are going to bring up throughout this, you're not really going to get those today. You're going to get a lot of like defense lawyer tactics here. And again, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth if you're just a person looking to hear the best argument from both sides. So he starts off by saying that this inquiry is not certified by a vote from the full House, so it doesn't follow the impeachment inquiry rules. That you can't call Joe Biden a liar. You can't say that he broke any laws because of that. They have a little bit of a tit about that, and we'll move on. But this narrative is that the inquiry requires a full House vote, something that didn't happen for one of Trump's 2 impeachments. And this gets shut down by Comer, this gets shut down by expert witnesses who are both law professors. This isn't a real claim. I don't know why they keep saying it when they have expert witnesses sitting there saying this is wrong. But the point here is to make the impeachment look rushed, make it look partisan, make it look opinionated, make it look like it doesn't have the merit that Republicans want it to look like it has, so that people brush it off. Because remember, this is the party that did Benghazi at one point, and that's kind of exactly what that was. Something that you could really just brush off because it was just kind of a partisan attack to the members. So he then goes on to talk about the shutdown, and specifically goes to the GOP, saying that they're enabling China and helping Trump by allowing the government to shut down, because that's the blah, blah, blah. He accuses the GOP of being Trump's personal defense team on legal issues, and then he attacks the credibility and professionalism of the GOP and blames them for causing chaos in the government, which these are, again, good tactics, I guess. He attacks the hearing itself, and then talks about how the expert witnesses are in fact witnesses. You're going to hear this a bit. It kind of gets rebutted pretty well, but it's a good tactic to bring up. Like, these people don't have any facts. They're just going to come here and talk about expert stuff. Raskin then goes on to deliver. He gets in the evidence a little bit vaguely. He says 10 pages of bank records, 2,000 pages of SARS reports, and none of it shows any wrongdoing by Joe Biden in terms of access or collecting money. um, which is arguable. This is going to be one of their arguments, though, is we don't have that direct evidence that he was actually influenced by anything, and we don't have actually any evidence that he took money. We know that Hunter was selling access, but it's the illusion of access theory, and I'll pull something up for you there. This is kind of the current narrative that they're running with on that side. Oh, I forgot to put a Raskin here. Let's go to Raskin and see his beautiful face. There you are, buddy. There you are. So this is the current narrative that's kind of being run with since the Archer testimony. Because this is kind of what Devin Archer said at the time. They sold the illusion of access. We didn't actually sell any access. We didn't do influence. We didn't do the worst crime. I'll admit to the lesser crimes, but not the one that could actually get me locked up for a long time. So finally, Raskin moves on to his last line of argument. This is going to be Les Parnas and Rudy Giuliani. So back in 2016, Donald Trump asked Rudy to go take a look into Ukraine about the Burisma stuff, and this extended up into 2018. And he had a guy named Les Parnas working with him. This led to Trump's first impeachment. Well, this was leading up to Trump's first impeachment. This is something that was used as a talking point. So Les said they searched high and low and could not find any link that proved there was anything between this illusion of access and Joe Biden. So now, to be clear, Les Parnas is not part of this current investigation, and none of the evidence that is going to be presented today is from Rudy Giuliani or Les Parnas. They are not involved in any way with this House investigation. They did their own separate investigation, and it came up fruitless. So, is that enough? Would you believe that Democrats think that Rudy looked into it, he didn't find anything, so I guess we're done here? I don't think that they trust him as credible. But yeah, it's an attack on the GOP's credibility, and also it links them back to Rudy Giuliani one more time, and he's a very unpopular figure right now. So, but Raskin is calm, decent, delivers his words sharply and well. Like, you can definitely see why these two guys on the right here are the A team. They are both pretty solid at their jobs. I just gotta give them props for that. They're both the A team of their parties. So we're gonna go to Professor Turley. We're almost done with opening statements here, and then we'll take us to the end of today. Okay, Turley. So Turley is first, and he is an expert witness from the Clinton, Trump times 2, and Biden impeachments now. He talks about the inquiry being of merit, and a full impeachment would not be at this current moment. He cites that Biden lying, Biden being at the center of these pay-for-play schemes, even if it was an illusion of access. Even if it was an illusion of access, remember that this guy is going to bust open the Democrats' argument, attempt to bust open the Democrats' arguments on both ends: Joe Biden's money attachment and Joe Biden's access, or selling of access. So even if it was the illusion of access, Joe Biden still took enough part in it to be worthy of looking deeper into. And he wants to find out why the family took in tens of millions of dollars, because there's really no explanation for that. We don't have any services rendered. We just have a lot of money paid for them for the illusion of access. And if it was just an illusion, why the hell would they keep paying them? So this shoots down a lot of what Raskin said in his opening arguments. I kind of wonder if Turley's doing this intentionally, or if he had a plan to come out swinging against these arguments already. So we go on to Miss O'Connor next. Turley repeats himself a lot. A lot of these witnesses kind of get asked the same questions a lot. So, and a lot of it's just going to repeat what's in their opening statements. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to wait till they get asked his questions to really bring some of these things up. But O'Connor is next, and she works for the DOJ tax division. She's an expert witness. She is an investigator, prosecutor. She's because essentially the expert on those tactics, and she's here to talk about what the whistleblowers got right and the policies and things around them. She wants to talk about the conduct of the DOJ and the U.S. misconduct, of the DOJ and the U.S. attorneys, and also she openly kind of confesses she's a partisan actor here. It doesn't make her information correct, but we do have to take it with a grain of salt. She kind of explicitly says she's part of the GOP. So, Mr. Dubinsky is next, and he is a forensic accountant as well as an expert witness and matters involved of these alleged crimes specifically. and doesn't want to give you a yes or no on Biden in particular. He just wants to help Congress kind of articulate their path moving forward. He really seems like a stand-up dude. He doesn't seem really like a partisan. Exact opposite of McConnell. Is that him right there? Yeah. Let's see if we can get a shot of his mug. Nope, he's looking down the whole fucking time. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. He does talk about a lot of the things that the Bidens did in office are pretty worthy, pretty red flag worthy. Oh, that's Gerhardt, and worth looking into. No, that's pretty all he said generally. And finally, we have Gerhardt, and he is about as partisan as O'Connor on the other side. He comes out swinging, saying that this impeachment is a partisan witch hunt, essentially. He said that it undercuts the credibility of impeachment. There's nothing here to link Joe Biden to this. He makes an analogy about Joe Biden's being arrested for Hunter's speeding ticket. He said the GOP is violating the rules by not having a House vote, and this is a fishing expedition. He just calls Republicans shitty, so essentially. 46 minutes. So that's going to be it from video one. We got through opening statements and summarized basically the arguments we're going to hear moving forward, and I gave you a lot of the context leading up to this point that you're going to need to know moving forward, because a lot of it is moving forward accepting that you know a lot of these things, and they might get touched on a little bit, but they're not going to get recovered in the detail that they were covered in previous hearings and news articles, etc. So I hope you liked everything. Like and sub, and to keep an eye out for part 2, where we do about the first third of testimonies, and part 3 is going to be the last 2/3 of the testimonies, because it's once you start to get to the D team, man, they don't say anything new most of the time, and they just engage in partisan attacks. I don't care for any of that shit. So yeah, take it easy. Thanks for watching.